Three spine-chilling true stories of sinister secrets revealed on haunted rainy nights. Emily's heart raced as she trudged through the rain-soaked streets of her suburban hellhole. The storm raged, shaking the very foundations of her fading neighborhood. Lightning cracked the sky, illuminating the eerie silhouettes of bare trees. She clutched her phone tighter, the diner's fluorescent glow fading into the darkness behind her. Something was amiss tonight. Fear clung to the air like fog, thick and choking. She couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Harris, once a harmless old man, had morphed into something menacing. Whispers followed him now, tales of shadows lurking behind closed doors, darting eyes in every streetlight's flicker. As Emily rounded the corner, she heard the faint sound of her son's laughter echoing from the playground. It sent a chill slithering down her spine. That park used to be a sanctuary of joy, but now it felt haunted, the laughter a taunt that twisted in her gut. Every rain-soaked step toward home intensified her dread. She could feel it, the invisible weights of 100 secrets lurking behind her neighbors' doors. Meanwhile, across town, the Anderson family sat under their perfect roof, a facade that seemed to crack under tension. Tyler, their teenage son, rifled through his father's phone, stumbling onto text messages that sent his heart plummeting. They contained whispers of dark deals and eerie connections to Sheriff Dalton, the man who upheld the facade of safety in their town's focus eyes. As thunder rumbled like a warning, Tyler felt a pull toward the truth. Something ominous brewed, and he had to know. He peeked out the window, rain wildly slashing against the glass, catching glimpses of the storm's malevolence reflected in his own thoughts. Emily's instincts screamed when she reached her front porch. The familiar creak of the door echoed in the silence, and the cozy warmth inside contrasted sharply with the tempest surrounding her. Suddenly, a frantic knock shattered the stillness. Her heart thundered. It was one of the Andersons. Panic radiated from his face, and before he could even catch his breath, fear spoke louder than words. "Lily's missing," he gasped, and Emily's stomach dropped. That sweet, innocent laughter now an echo of dread. Rain pattered harder, sounding like ominous whispers around her. She grabbed her jacket and charged out, the streets now alive with terror. Each slosh of water at her feet felt like a hand reaching upward, pulling her into an abyss of fear. Shadows danced grotesquely behind trees, closer than before. "Lily, where are you?" Panic clawed at her throat. She sprinted through the wet streets, the downpour drowning out any sense of security. Something told her the playground wasn't just a place of innocence anymore. Maybe it was a trap, a cursed ground holding nightmares. Her breath came in short gasps, and every flicker of light sent her heart racing faster. Disorientation gripped her as she darted between desperately familiar yet strangely distorted sights, her eyes scanning for any sign of her daughter. Then, out of nowhere, the abandoned hospital loomed ahead, a Gothic relic of the past, its crumbling facade leaking secrets of long-forgotten tragedies. It beckoned her closer, the air dense with haunted tales, wrapping around her ankles like tendrils. Tyler's shout from within pierced through the darkness, echoing through the storm. "Help! Don't come in!" Emily's grip faltered on her phone, her blood running cold. Who could she trust? Was this place the key to unraveling the sinister threads connecting Mr. Harris, the Andersons, and herself? The very breath of the storm vibrated with unseen horrors. The door creaked open, revealing an engulfing darkness, an invitation to face the unfathomable. Time froze as Emily stood poised at the threshold, the weight of betrayal crashing down on her, melding fear with trepidation. Was the truth inside worth the risk, or would she unveil a monstrosity too terrible to confront? Emily hesitated for barely a heartbeat before stepping inside the dark hospital. A shiver raced down her spine as the door creaked shut behind her, sealing her in with what could only be described as palpable dread. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of decay and whispered regrets, suffocating her like a worn blanket. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, yet Tyler's desperate cry echoed in her mind, spurring her forward. "Tyler," she called out, her voice trembling, swallowed by the oppressive silence that enveloped her. The darkness within seemed alive, pulsating as she moved deeper, her feet squelching in puddles of murky water. Stale memories lingered in this place, echoes of pain. Laughter long turned to cries. As she ventured deeper, The overhead lights flickered ominously, casting jagged shadows that danced along the wall, twisting figures mocking her resolve. With each step, she felt the suffocating fog of fear seep into her bones, as if the very walls held the horrors of the past, the chaos, the screams, the memories of lives lost. "Tyler," she called again, panic gnawing at her. She descended the staircase that spiraled down into darkness, led only by the soft glow of her phone screen, trembling in her hand. The stairs groaned under her weight, somber reminders of countless souls who had passed through these halls, some fleeing, some trapped. As she reached the bottom, the oppressive darkness enveloped her entirely. She pulled her phone closer, casting a feeble light around the empty corridor, littered with remnants of a bygone-era rusty gurneys, cracked mirrors reflecting broken souls. The flickering bulb overhead buzzed menacingly, sending violent shadows skittering away as if alive. Then another shout shattered the stillness. "Help! Please!" Emily's heart stopped. It was Tyler. She rushed toward the voice, adrenaline surging through her veins. Each step was heavier than the last, as dread clawed at her mind, a gnawing reminder of everything she had to lose. "Tyler, I'm coming," she screamed, pushing through the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. She reached an open room, its door ajar, revealing a chilling sight. The walls were plastered with torn photographs and newspaper clippings, detailing disappearances of children over the years. The date on one hastily scrawled note caught her breath. It matched Lily's last known whereabouts. "Tyler!" Panic exploded within her as she dashed into the room, eyes wildly scanning for her son. On the far wall, the shadows shifted, distinct shapes moving as if alive. A dim light flickered to life, revealing Tyler, desperately trying to tear down a curtain, the fabric stained and grimy. "Mom, it's too late. You shouldn't have come here. We have to get out." His voice was breathless with fear, the overwhelming sense of urgency enveloping them both. But before Emily could respond, a cold chill swept through the room, pulling at her clothes like fingers. The sound of whispering filled the air, twisted words caressing her ears, weaving promises of despair. "Join us, stay forever." Dark shapes slithered across the walls, and her heart plummeted. Those whispers weren't strange. She understood that voice, the bitterness of betrayal clawing at her chest. It was familiar, too familiar. "What is happening?" Tyler cried, backing away as the shadows deepened, their forms shifting, drawing ever closer. The room trembled around them, the growing terror infiltrating her thoughts like ice, and doubts began swirling. Could it all be connected? Mr. Harris, the Andersons, the sheriff, were they all part of this malevolence that thrived in the shadows? Something sinister was lurking deeper within the hospital, an unspeakable terror waiting to be uncovered. Taking a breath, Emily cast one last desperate look around before clutching Tyler's arm. "Run!" she shouted, and they barreled back into the corridor. But as they stumbled into the darkness, a new voice echoed through the halls, the unmistakable sound of laughter. Lily's laughter. It's time to play. In that very moment, Emily felt an icy grip on her heart. What had they stepped into? The storm raged outside, relentless, but the true storm of horrors awaited them within. Emily and Tyler sprinted down the corridor, the clamor of their frantic footsteps echoing against the grim, cracked walls. Each sound mingled with the sinister laughter that reverberated through the halls, entwining itself with their fear. Shadows writhed in the corners of the flickering light, stretching unnaturally long, as if reaching for them, waiting for the chance to snatch them into the darkness. "Mom, where do we go?" Tyler shouted, desperation thick in his voice. He tugged on her arm, urging her to move faster. They rounded a corner, lungs burning, adrenaline electrifying every nerve. The sudden shift in the terrain knocked them off balance, and they stumbled, regaining their footing just as a loud crash resonated behind them, a heavy metal door slamming shut, sealing off their path. "No, not this way," Emily screamed, panic bubbling to the forefront as they passed shattered windows framed with rusted wires. The laughter morphed into screeching cries, a cacophony that pierced through the oppressive silence, dragging haunting memories to the surface. Lily's face, joyful and bright like a summer's day. Now all that was left was this hellish echo. "Mom, we need to find a way out," Tyler urged, trying to stay focused, but fear was palpable. It clung to him like mist. There has to be another exit. Emily scanned the room, her heart pounding in tandem with the growling storm outside. Rain pelted the roof, a frantic rhythm matching the dread swirling in her gut. The walls were closing in, each shadow seeming to stretch fingers towards them. In an alcove to the side, a glimmer caught her eye, an old emergency exit sign, nearly obscured by grime. "Over there," she yelled, pointing and hastening toward it, Tyler following closely. Reaching the door, she fumbled with the rusted handle. It resisted her efforts, sticking stubbornly, but adrenaline fueled her strength. Come on," she urged, twisting harder. Finally, with a creak that sent shivers through her bones, the door opened, revealing a stairwell leading upward, swallowed in dim light. "Let us go." Tyler darted through, but Emily hesitated, a feeling prickling at her senses. A low, gravelly voice curled around her like smoke, one she hadn't heard in years. "You can't leave, you don't know what it's like to be free." Chilling recognition struck her. It was Mr. Harris, his presence suffocating as his ghostly words scraped along the edges of her sanity. The stories, the hushed warnings, her intuition shouted that they'd been right all along. "Mom." Tyler's urgency broke her from the trance. "We have to go?" She slammed the door shut against the echoes of his voice, determination hardening within her steps. They climbed the narrow steps frantically. Each echo of their footsteps sounded like an alarm ringing through the night. As they reached the next floor, Emily's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, breathless, another flickering light, revealing chilling photos in her message feed. A picture of Lily, eyes wide with terror, her tiny hands reaching for help. "Help me, Mom." The text read, sent from an unknown number, that set panic coursing through Emily's veins. "Mom, what's wrong?" Tyler asked, his voice quivering. "Tyler, the messages are from Lily." The realization hit her, freezing her in place. But before she could react, the door behind them rattled violently. Shadows swarmed around, echoing that sinister laughter, a sound that promised torment and despair. With renewed urgency, Emily grabbed Tyler's shoulder and propelled them forward into the unknown. "We have to find her. We have to save your sister." But the laughter erupted anew, filling the air with sinister glee. Playtime is just beginning. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to turn back and flee, but she pressed on, driven by the heart-wrenching call of a child lost. What other secrets lurked in this hellish hospital? And who else awaited them in the dark? The stairwell felt endless, dark and suffocating as they ascended, their footsteps echoing maddeningly against the damp, cold walls. Emily's heart raced as the laughter receded into taunting whispers that rippled through the air. Each step felt like a countdown. They were trapped, and all she could think of was Lily's terrified face, frozen in that image on her phone. "Mom, are we even close?" Tyler's breath hitched. "It feels like we're going nowhere." Emily shook her head, glancing up at the flickering bulbs above. "We have to keep going. We have to find her, Tyler." But doubt knotted in her stomach like a weight, sinking her resolve. They reached a landing, and Emily paused, chest heaving. She could hear nothing but the soft pitter-patter of rain on the roof and the distant howl of wind, but that laughter, it still echoed in her mind. "This way," she whispered, spotting a doorway marked with peeling paint. Pushing through, the room was a stark contrast. Sunlight streamed in through the broken windows, illuminating the dust floating like ghosts in the air. Shelves lined with abandoned toys and crumbling books created an eerie semblance of a normal place. "Mom, look!" Tyler pointed to a rickety wooden chair in the center. A doll sat on it, its glass eyes forever wide, staring into nothingness. They both stepped closer. "What the?" Emily muttered. Sickening images of her daughter being here, trapped, flooded her mind. Then, there it was again. The laughter. This time, it felt closer, more menacing, as if it seeped from every corner of the room. Emily felt the cold seep into her bones, and panic surged anew. "We need to leave." But just as she turned, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Tyler jumped back, pressing against the wall. "Mom." Emily tugged at the doorknob locked tight. "Stay back, Tyler." It might be she gritted her teeth, trying to ignore the fear creeping into her thoughts. It might be a trick. Shadows flickered around them, and the laughter twisted, morphing into whispers of lost children. Emily's hands trembled as she pressed her palms against the door, willing it to give. Help, a voice, soft and desperate, slipped through a crack. Help us. Her blood ran cold. Tyler's eyes widened in fear, his face pale. Mom, what was that? I don't know, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But it sounded like Lily. Before she could process, everything shifted. The toys around them began to shake, rattling against the shelves. The laughter intensified, mingling with the cries, making the air heavy and suffocating. Suddenly, the doll's head turned to face them, its once dry eyes glistening with tears. Emily stumbled backward, gripping Tyler's arm as he shielded himself behind her. The atmosphere grew electric, the temperature dropping as figures began to emerge from the edges of the room, faint outlines, shifting between the shadows. No, no, no. She pressed her body against Tyler, forcing them both into the far corner. We need to find another way out. Then, the laughter came once more, booming as if it were inside their skulls. You came to play after all. The door rattled violently, shaking as if something powerful was on the other side, trying to break through. Emily felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her. Tyler, we have to get out. An idea sparked in her mind. The windows. One of them might still be intact. Dragging Tyler toward the nearest one, she felt the oppressive air close in, as if shadows wanted to trap them here forever. But just as they reached the window, a figure stepped through the door, looming with a dark silhouette that swallowed the light. Emily gasped, adrenaline surging. Mom, Tyler whimpered. The figure stepped closer, a chilling smile stretching across its face. I'm here to help. Emily froze, dread lacing her spine. What if this could be a trap? What if it wasn't help at all? Questions raced as darkness pressed in. Tyler, run. But the figure advanced, and the air thickened with anticipation and dread, leaving them teetering on the brink of terror. Would help come, or another horror await? The figure loomed closer, swallowing the faint sunlight with an insatiable darkness. Emily's instincts screamed at her to flee, yet her feet felt glued to the floor. Paralyzed, she barely noticed Tyler tugging at her sleeve. Panic etched across his small face as he whispered urgently, Mom. Please, the figure said, its voice disconcertingly sweet. I only want to help. Your daughter, she needs you. Don't listen to it. Emily shouted, shaking off the fear gripping her. The words clung to the air like cobwebs, heavy and suffocating. We have to get out. Just then, the laughter returned, more frenetic and mocking, ricocheting off the walls. Emily's eyes darted around, seeking an escape, but the shadows danced, warping the reality around them. She could feel the tremors in her hands as she attempted to hold onto her son, their small sanctuary in a world growing increasingly erratic. With a desperate shove, she pulled Tyler forward, aiming for the window once more. The glass beckoned, almost a promise of freedom, despite the jagged edges and the uncertain height below. They reached it, a brief glint of hope amongst the chaos. But as Tyler scrambled to lift his foot, the figure spoke again, eerie and insistent. You'll never find her without me. Emily hesitated, horror tearing at her resolve. It was as if the air itself had conspired against them. Each breath felt thick with dread while the shadows coiled closer. You're lying, she shouted, knowing deep down that the truth was tangled in the very essence of their nightmare. The figure shifted, moving silently, its smile stretching unnaturally wider. Do you hear her? It whispered. She's calling for you. She's right here. Emily's blood ran icy. The whispers twisted into the wailing cries of children, drowning out her thoughts. Tyler, no? She hissed, but her own voice grew muffled as the ringing laughter, now a cacophony, swallowed her words. Suddenly, Tyler's eyes widened in horror. Mom, look. Emily turned. The doll, the one they had passed on the chair, began to crawl towards them. Each tiny movement filled the room with a sense of impending doom, its eyes now glowing, shining like lanterns of pure malice. Help us, we want to play. What do you want? Emily screamed, fear surging through her. She realized the laughter had altered into something sinister, something demanding a blood-curdling need. Just you, the figure said, stepping closer still. Emily could almost reach out and touch the fabric of its dark cloak. You can't fight what's already begun. Instinctively, she clutched Tyler closer, heart pounding in her chest. We'll take our chances, she hissed, urgency pulling at her. With newfound determination, she scrambled for the window. The doll lunged, air thickening, a wave of darkness crashing around them. "Mom, it's too late." Tyler's face was petrified, shock flooding his features. But Emily refused to relent. They had to escape. She propelled herself toward the window, pulling Tyler with her, adrenaline fueling every movement. And then the sharp scream of glass shattering echoed in the room. Emily stumbled backward, fear wrapping around her as nightmarish shadows tumbled into the opening behind them, swirling like a storm. She felt Tyler slip from her grasp, and in that instant, a chilling realization pierced through her. A void replaced the warmth of their unity. "Mom!" Tyler's cry echoed just as the weight of darkness closed in. Emily turned, but all she found was an unfathomable void, shadows hungry for her sanity. Despair twisted in her gut. She couldn't afford to fail. Something pulled her, urging her forward into the chaos. "Stay close," she screamed into the void. But a laugh erupted, vibrant with malice, echoing with the voices of lost children. "You'll never find him or your daughter," the figure intoned, a chorus of despair shattering all hope. With everything inside her, she leaped. Darkness enveloped her, and as the laughter crescendoed, a gut-wrenching question sizzled through Emily's mind. What if every escape only led her deeper into this horror? Would they evade whatever cursed them? Or had they already crossed the line where redemption was impossible? Emily plunged into the darkness, her scream swallowed by an all-consuming silence. The world around her twisted and warped. She felt as if she were falling through an endless void. Moments stretched into eternity as panic clawed at her. Was she in a dream? Or had she simply crossed into a nightmare from which there was no awakening? Suddenly, she landed hard on a cold, damp floor. The breath knocked from her lungs. Gasping, she pushed herself up, her heart racing. She squinted into the thick shadows, her surroundings obscured by an oppressive gloom. The air felt electric, charged with dread. Was Tyler with her? "Tyler," she called, her voice trembling. "Where are you?" The moment she spoke, the darkness quivered as if an unseen presence stirred. A distant giggle reached her ears, high-pitched and mocking. Fear washed over her as she strained to hear the familiar sound of her son's voice. But only the mocking laughter grew louder, more frantic. "Is anyone there?" she shouted, desperation seeping through her tone. The laughter morphed, turning to a cacophony of whispers, each syllable dripping with malice. Help us then." A flicker of light pierced the encroaching dark, illuminating a small figure off to her right. Emily squinted, feeling both hope and dread as she recognized the unmistakable shape of a child. It looked like Tyler, but it wasn't quite right. "Mommy," the figure called, its voice a jarring blend of Tyler's and something otherworldly. "Tyler, is that you?" She stepped forward, but the more she approached, the more distorted the light became, twisting into something grotesque. "Are you okay?" The figure grinned wider, its eyes glinting with a sickly glow. "We're all together now, no." Panic surged anew in Emily. She backed away, heart pounding, scanning for a way out. Shadows loomed and stretched along the walls, an uninvited audience to her descent into madness. "Mommy," the voice echoed again, blending with a chorus of childlike giggles. "You have to join us." Suddenly, the oppressive darkness shifted, and out from the depths around her came legions of small, shadowy figures. They encircled her, their laughter a haunting song of deceit. Gusts of wind swirled around, swirling the whispers into an almost tangible storm. "Join us, Emily, stay with us forever, get away," she screamed, her throat raw with fear. She stumbled backward until she hit a wall, the cold surface now a barrier between her and the writhing shadows. "Help us, we just want to play," they chanted, hands reaching, ghostly mouths mouthing their sinister intent. Emily's mind raced. Where was Tyler in all this chaos? As if the darkness fed on her fear, it tightened its grip. A vision of her son's tiny, terrified face stung her heart. She couldn't let whatever this was take him. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she lunged back into the swirling shadows, heart thrumming, ignoring the reaching hands and the chilling whispers. "Tyler," she cried, diving through the chaos, feeling the cold depths close around her. Then, as quickly as it started, the laughter stopped. The air became stiflingly quiet, as if all sound had been devoured whole. "Mommy," a soft voice called far away. "Tyler." Her heart raced as she scrambled towards the sound, finding herself alone in another cavernous place. The walls were slick with moisture, the floor muddy and slick beneath her feet. What if the shadows weren't just shadows? What if they were something more? What if the twins that danced in the dark were the souls of children lost to the world? She shivered as she processed the disturbing thought. There was a door ahead, slightly ajar, a faint shimmer of light spilling through the crack. Taking a breath to steady herself, she pushed the door open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. And there, sitting in the corner, was the doll, eyes glimmering with a haunting familiarity. But next to it, a shadow moved, and Emily felt her heart stop. Tyler. What emerged from the darkness was no longer simply her son, it was something more sinister. And just as she began to understand the horror waiting in that room, a voice echoed behind her, low and twisted. You've chosen your path. Emily turned, every instinct screaming. And with that, the door slammed shut. What awaited her in the darkness now? And would she ever find Tyler again? Emily's breath caught in her throat, the heavy silence suffocating her as the door slammed shut. It felt as if the warmth of life, the essence of her hope, was being sucked away with every heartbeat. She spun around, desperately seeking a clue, a chance, anything that could lead her back to Tyler or God, please, something her mind could comprehend. Her eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light illuminating the room. It revealed peeling wallpaper, a dusty floor strewn with broken toys and fragments of laughter that seemed forever lost. The doll in the corner glimmered with an eerie luminescence, its cracked porcelain face twisted into a smile that felt wrong. It was a familiar doll. Tyler had been fascinated by it. What was it doing here? Tyler! She shouted again, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. The room took a breath, quieting, and for a fleeting moment, anticipation churned within her like bubbling water. But then that familiar laughter slithered back in, thin and taunting, a chorus of malicious giggles erupting from the shadows. We're waiting for you, it echoed, wrapping around her like icy chains. Emily staggered back, the walls seeming to close in, her pulse quickening. I want to play your games, she screamed, her voice bouncing off the dank, dim walls. But even as she said it, she felt herself teetering on the edge of something vast and dark, a willingness to slip into the unknown if it meant she might find her son. Mommy, play, join us. The whispers grew louder, a haunting litany that crawled beneath her skin. Desperation clawed at her heart, drawing her closer to the doll. Should she touch it? Wasn't it possible that it held some part of Tyler, some thread she could pull to bring him back? With shaky hands, she reached out. The moment her fingers brushed its icy cheek, a flood of memories swamped her: laughter, warmth, blissful moments of life with her child. But those memories twisted grotesquely, morphing into dark shades of paranoia and dread. Stay, the doll murmured in a voice that sounded like her child's, but twisted, distorted. You can't leave us. Everything went black for a moment, as if the shadows had consumed her. The air grew thick. Panic surged through her limbs, and she withdrew her hand, collapsing backward. Please, Tyler, answer me, she called out, tears streaming down her cheeks. Was this truly the end? In that desolate room, a new presence hovered, something heavier and darker than mere shadows. A figure emerged from the corner where the doll sat. A silhouette formed in the shape of a child that looked so much like Tyler, but the eyes were hollow, devoid of warmth. It's so cold, Mommy, it whined, the voice wrapping around her like barbed wire. Please. The laughter returned. In it, she heard a sound that twisted into something else, a shriek of pain, or perhaps a plea. The walls pulsed, a heartbeat synchronizing with her own fear. Emily felt the cold creeping up her spine like a vine squeezing tighter, constricting her will to live. She leapt to her feet, racing towards the door. But it was locked, invisible chains binding her in. The whispers rose to a fever pitch, wrapping her in a net of despair. Join us, forever no. Emily screamed, throwing herself against the door, throwing her weight behind it. And then, it opened. Suddenly, a blinding light flooded the room, illuminating what lay ahead. A hallway stretched infinitely, doors lined up like sentinels. Each door pulsed with the promise of revelation or perhaps destruction. The laughter died slowly, leaving an echo of silence in its wake. What reality lay ahead? Was this the way back to her son? Locked in fear, Emily stood on the threshold, her heart pounding. If she chose wrong, would she lose herself entirely? A soft, familiar voice floated through the air. Mommy with trembling hands. She took a tentative step forward, the corridor yawning open like a mouth ready to devour her. Each choice laced with terror, each step could lead her closer to Tyler or deeper into the clutches of the unknown. What waited behind the next door? Was it hope, or the final embrace of darkness? As Emily stepped into the hallway, the air thickened, pressing against her like a tangible force. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, slinking into doorways that seemed to breathe in time with her racing heart. The beckoning call of her son's voice raised the hairs on her neck, its sweetness now laced with an undertone that made her stomach churn. Mommy, it drifted towards her like mist, but she couldn't tell if it was a lure or a warning. She swallowed hard, each door looming larger, and stepped cautiously forward. The first door, painted an appealing shade of blue, creaked slightly as she neared it. Emily hesitated, her hand hovering above the doorknob. Was this where she would find him? Would the answers she sought or the terror she dreaded unfold behind this entrance? What are you frightened of? A dissonant whisper threaded through the air, and her pulse quickened. It was almost childlike, yet dripped with malice. We only want to play. Gripping the doorframe, she forced herself to take a steady breath. She felt as if the walls were closing in, a cradle of confinement that made escape seem futile. After a moment of hesitation, she jerked the door open with a fierce determination, praying for a glimpse of Tyler. Inside was a room hanging heavy with the scent of decay. At the center, a table was set with grotesque dishes, bone china adorned with rib bones, dust swirling in the dim light like the remnants of lost souls. A mirror hung on the wall, its surface mottled and blackened, reflecting nothing but darkness. "Come, join us for dinner." The voices chimed, a chorus of childish tones wrapping around her and tightening into coils of fear. Her breath hitched. Was this some twisted memory of their happy meals together? Or was it a cruel mockery, drawing her in to join a feast of horrors? "Tyler," she called again, clutching her head, feeling the weight of despair press down as if trying to drown her. "I'm coming. I want to leave you." The voices shrieked, a cacophony of laughter combined with twisted lies, filling her with dread. Fumbling, she stepped back. She couldn't stay here. This place was not a haven. Rushing to the next door, she wrenched it open. This time, the air was colder, almost biting. A pale room spread out in front of her, the walls lined with crayon drawings that seemed to come alive, depicting scenes of warped dreams, a swinging child, balloons floating away into abyssal voids, a smiling sun dripping tears. "What is this place?" Emily whispered, her voice cracking. The door behind her slammed shut with an echoing thud, making her jump. "Mommy, save me," came the faintest of whispers, drawing her gaze towards the floor where a rag doll lay abandoned. Its button eyes gazed up at her, filled with a haunting emptiness. She picked it up, feeling a jolt of electricity race through her fingertips. The doll felt eerily warm, and it stirred something deep within her, an instinct, a primal need to protect her child. But as she clutched it to her chest, the walls began to thrum, the air crackling like an electric storm, shadows swirling around her. The voices erupted into an angry crescendo. "Leave now, or join us." Despair flooded Emily's heart. She needed Tyler. She needed to find him, before she could move. The room warped, swirling like a cyclone of recollection and shadows, spiraling out of control around her. "Choose." The words pierced her mind like knives. Choose, or be lost forever. Her mind raced as she stood at the center of chaos, the shadows twisting into grotesque shapes. Every inch of her screamed in confusion and fear. Tearing her gaze from the doll, she realized she had to move again before the darkness consumed her whole. Each choice loomed heavier, each decision draped in dread. Which door was the way out? Would it lead her back to Tyler, or deeper into madness? As Emily steadied herself to dash toward yet another door, a violent rumble echoed through the corridor, shaking the walls and sending dust cascading from the ceiling. The lights flickered, casting flickering shadows that danced like they were alive. What if the door she opened next was the final trap? The last mistake that would seal her fate? Time seemed to stretch as she held her breath, caught in the grip of uncertainty. Behind which door lay her salvation or her doom? The vibrations continued to tremble through the walls as Emily leaned closer to the third door, her heart pounding against her ribs, each beat screaming urgency. Determined, she grasped the cold doorknob and twisted it, holding her breath as she pushed the door open. This room was darker, the air thicker, wrapping around her like a heavy shroud. A single, flickering bulb hung from a chain, casting a sickly yellow light that sputtered. Dust danced through the dim glow, swirling in ghostly swirls, revealing a child's bedroom, yet everything was wrong. The walls were lined with shelves filled with toys, each one painted with just a hint of something roguish in its smile, their painted eyes glinting with a malevolence that sent chills scuttling down her spine. "Tyler," she called into the shadows, but the sound only bounced back, taunting her as it melded into whispers that felt like fingernails scraping against her sanity. In the center of the room, a bed stood draped in a tattered quilt, its colors faded, worn from years of neglect. Emily stepped forward, her shoes scuffing against the hardwood floor that creaked beneath her weight, echoing her fears. Something was not right. She could feel it, a heavy sigh of the house, a groan of something ancient that wished to remain hidden. The whispers escalated, a chorus of disjointed voices flooding her ears. "Let us show you," they sang. "Will you play with us?" "Play?" She echoed in disbelief, her throat tight. Panic surged through her as a shadow flitted past the edge of her vision. She spun around, but nothing was there, just darkness, thick and alive. Suddenly, the light above her failed completely, plunging her into inky blackness. Emily froze, her breath quickening, each inhale burning her lungs. The cacophony of whispers transformed into laughter, high-pitched and gleeful, swirling around her like a viscous fog. "Tyler!" she screamed, the name tearing from her throat like a desperate prayer. "Where are you?" A soft giggle emerged from behind the curtain of darkness, chilling her to the bone. She stumbled toward the source, worry clawing at her gut. The air turned frigid, wrapping around her in a bone-deep cold that made her shiver violently. Suddenly, the bulb flickered back to life, casting an eerie glow across the walls. The toys on the shelves seemed to rearrange themselves, their grins wider now, mouths stretching impossibly wide, as if they were about to chime in with the laughter echoing in her mind. In the corner of the room, a figure began to emerge from the shadows. Emily's heart sank. It was small, hunched over, shrouded in dark fabric, the shape twisting and writhing like a snake. Would it be Tyler? Or something worse? "Come play," it beckoned, voice low and mocking, just like the others. "Mommy's here." The impulse to flee nagged at her, pulling her toward the door, but the figure raised its head, revealing a face twisted in a cruel mimicry of innocence, eyes that swallowed the light entirely, a mouth poised in a leer that reminded her with sickening familiarity of Tyler's own smile. Terror gripped her heart as she took a step back, the door closing behind her with a dreaded slowness, sealing her into the nightmare. "Tyler, I'm coming, she shouted, rallying her courage as she charged toward the figure. Driven by the love for her son and the desperate need to break the spell this place was casting over her, in a blur of motion, she lunged forward, her heart pounding a symphony of fear and determination. But as she reached for the figure, it twisted away, dissolving into the shadow as if it were never there. And then silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak of the house a whisper of anticipation. Where had it gone? Where was Tyler? With nowhere left to turn, the realization crashed over her like a wave. The house wasn't just a maze, it was a living nightmare. But if she wanted to find her son, she had to conquer her fear. "Show yourself," she yelled, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. "I will find him." The darkness quivered in response, and the laughter returned, louder and more haunting than before. Shadows began to swirl, tightening around her like the grip of a vice. Suddenly, one door at the far end of the room burst open, a blinding white light spilling forth. Emily squinted through the radiance, her heart racing. What lay beyond? Would it be salvation, or something far more terrifying? With her heart pounding, she took a step toward the light, a leap of faith that could lead to freedom or doom. As Emily stepped into the blinding light, her heart was a wild drumbeat of hope and terror. The light enveloped her, pushing back the shadows that had tormented her for what felt like an eternity. She took a breath, inhaling deeply, willing herself to find Tyler. Tyler, she shouted, her voice a fierce promise against the overwhelming silence. The luminous space around her flickered like the flares of a dying star, illuminating her path while casting long shadows behind her. Finally, the light faded, revealing a vast expanse of playground, eerily familiar, yet twisted. The jungle gym loomed like a skeletal messenger of childhood, painted a garish hue of red. A swing swayed gently in an unfelt wind, the sound of creaking chains cutting through the silence like a knife. Emily's heart sank. This can't be it, she whispered, choking back the despair. But something pulled at her heart. Was that a giggle? Tyler, she called out, dread bubbling once again in her throat. Where are you? And then she saw them, a group of shadowy figures flitting among the playground equipment, each movement a fragmented laugh echoing into the void. The unmistakable face of her son among them. He looked different, though, eyes darker, filled with something else. Mom. Tyler's voice joined the melodic chaos, but it sang a tune laced with sorrow. Come play. Not like this, Emily cried, desperation sharpening her senses. Mustering every ounce of love within her, she dove into the shadows, pushing through the haze, the laughter twirling around her like a dance of phantoms. Tyler, you need to come with me. With each step, the laughter shrank, replaced by a whisper, stay with us forever. Her lungs felt cold, as if the playground were a sepulcher, claiming her soul with every echoing jest. You need to leave, we need to leave. But shadows wrapped around her like creeping vines. Emily remembered their connection, the mother-son bond that had always been stronger than any dark force. I want to abandon you. Suddenly, she pushed closer, the other children retreating, melting away like fog. She reached for Tyler, whose eyes shimmered, a kind of clarity breaking through the haze of darkness. Mom. He reached out, his voice trembling, real and desolate. Grab my hand, she urged, extending her grip to him, a lifeline in the consuming void. The shadows screamed, writhing in protest, but Emily planted her feet firm. Now, Tyler. Now. Time slowed as their hands connected. The damning whispers grew louder, trying to snatch him back into their suffocating embrace, shadows stretching into clawing fingers. In that moment, something unearthly unfurled, their combined strength igniting a light brighter than she had ever known. We can break this, she shouted, determination roaring in her chest as they surged forward together. With a furious cry, they broke free, light pouring in as they charged through the playground, the laughter and cries echoing behind them, fading into the distance like nightmares retreating at dawn. They burst into the world outside, drenched in rain, but the storm felt different, lighter somehow, the oppressive weight replaced by a cleansing rush. Emily looked at Tyler, their eyes meeting in a breath of relief, the shadows of fear dissipating as warmth flooded back into their lives. Mom, I thought I lost you, Tyler said, voice shaky but sincere, the tremors of his fears still haunting him. I'll never let you go again, Emily promised, wrapping her arms around him, feeling the pounding of their hearts sink back into harmony, the bond reaffirmed. Together, they walked home, rain washing away the memories of despair, every step growing steadier, determined to rebuild what had been broken. And behind them, the playground stood silent, shadows eased, and laughter replaced by an echo of their triumph, a sinister past held at bay, at least for now. Somewhere deep down, Emily knew that some places hold darkness tightly, but love could illuminate even the deepest shadows. With their backs turned to a world that threatened what they held dear, Emily felt a new surge of hope burning in her chest, fueled by the knowledge that there are still battles to face. But together, they stood resolute, ready for whatever might come next. As they reached the door of their home, Emily turned to face the storm one last time. We did it, she said, barely above a whisper. Yes, Mom. We're free, Tyler replied, a shy smile breaking across his face. The rain continued to pour, but Emily was ready. Life awaited them, dark secrets laid bare, their story only just beginning. Now it's time for you. If you want more chilling tales delivered straight to you, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't let the next exclusive story slip away. Smash that like button to fuel the algorithm and keep this journey alive. Flood the comments with your reactions, your theories. Let us hear what you think of the ending. And for those you care about, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends. Let us keep the spirit of these tales alive.